Happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mediavine Summer of Live. I'm your host, Jenny Guy, ready to take a break from the stifling heat and dive into the pool of knowledge for content creators. Sorry, please forgive the complicated introductory metaphor. I couldn't even get through it without giggling, and I wrote it for myself, but my brain gets a little crazy when it's real hot outside. How are you coping with this insane global heat wave? Tell us hi in the comments and please share your best keep cool hacks. But other than from our amazing audience, another place that is loaded with tips for keeping cool is actually the second largest search engine in the world and our topic for today's episode. If you guessed YouTube, you guessed right. And my guest today is joining us all the way from the unseasonably warm country of Denmark to share his top tips for growing your following. I'm going to introduce and read all the amazing things about him first. Morton Storeguard has a background in SEO consulting and went full-time with blogging 4 years ago. He started a YouTube channel about the journey 2.5 years ago, and today he reaches around 20,000 bloggers monthly on his channel, Passive Income Geek. He also created a different YouTube channel with 120,000 subscribers and 20 million plays with his wife about downsizing. Morten, welcome to the Summer of Live for the first time. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Jenny. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's so good to have you. And I actually got to meet Morten in person in Europe just about 2 months ago. It was so wonderful to get to meet him. And when we met him and talked with him at the affiliate marketing conference, I knew we had to have him on the Summer of Live because he has so much insight on growing an organic following on YouTube and how to balance that as both a blogger and a YouTuber. So first, I'm going to ask a question to our audience about YouTube. YouTubers and video creators in the chat, we want to hear from you. How did you start making videos and why did you start making videos? Please drop that answer in there. And remember, if you have any questions for Morten or myself, please drop them in the comments and I will get them to Morten. Okay, we're going to start this off with a little context for the audience, Morten. How did you get started in the content creation space and how did you end up on YouTube?
Yeah, so I actually started in e-commerce back in 2008. So that was so I just wanted to start something. I've just been really antsy for a while to get something off the ground, and so I ended up with some debt and on the failure. So needed to do something else. And one of these other things was my wife starting a YouTube channel, and I went into SEO consulting for a long time. But my wife started a YouTube channel, and we were downsizing ourselves. We were moving from our bigger city apartment just into the 2 living rooms, renting out some of the bedrooms just to save some money because we needed to get out of debt. And we shot a few videos of some furniture that my wife built, like a Murphy bed, this thing you can pop up on the wall, and people like retractable tables and stuff so we could sort of fit everything in 2 rooms. And so that's probably in 2012, maybe 2013. So some of these videos caught a lot of attention, and we started filming small spaces and small apartments and tiny houses on wheels. And yeah, so that was when we started to see the potential of what YouTube can do. Yeah.
And then you pivoted from that, or you added another channel, which some people might think is crazy, but it was a totally different kind of channel. So with downsizing, you're more of one of like our audience's traditional content creators, but on Passive Income Geek, you're teaching about blogging. Yes?
Yeah, that's definitely more like a teaching channel where I teach what I do. So since then, we've built up a couple of bigger sites. One side with Mediavine, obviously, which we're really happy to be with you guys. And so we have a couple of content sites that we built up over the years. I built up these alongside my SEO consulting gig, and then slowly I would just phase out the customers or the clients, you can say, and just go full time with blogging like 3, 4, 5 years ago, probably. I guess we lost a couple of years with COVID. I always have to add like 2 years when I say like 3 years ago. It's probably more like 3 or 6, you know.
Yeah, there's no question that if I had any grip of time before the pandemic,
Yeah,
it's definitely
it's
gone now.
it's
I have no
definitely gone now.
clue.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah.
I don't know what year it is.
So
So,
yeah,
well, I
somewhere
wanted to ask,
or
yeah,
yeah.
sometime you added an additional YouTube channel, and what I
Hmm.
wanted to ask was, you're investing a lot of time into YouTube, and essentially we talked about this in Europe, but that essentially you are building that community on YouTube, being its home base. So
Yeah.
what do you love about YouTube? Why do you like to create there?
Yeah, I like how you sort of get a shot really early on. So with Google and specifically organic traffic with Google, that takes a while. I guess we all know that. I assume everybody here has like blog traffic. So that always takes a good while to get off the ground, right? Like maybe a year or half a year or something like that. But I mean, if you shoot a video and you get it right, you can grow really, really quickly on YouTube. So that's something that I think is super, super interesting. And also, I would say I didn't really want to start a blog about blogging because the competition is super crazy high in that space. I wanted to do something else. And actually, I created that YouTube channel about blogging in order to connect with people and see where it got me. Now I'm talking to you guys, so that's exactly why I started that channel. So I'm really happy to be here. So that's what I've seen YouTube do differently. Of you can say like blogging. That takes a long time. It doesn't have to take that long on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that SEO is an investment in long term. It's a long game rather than an
Yeah.
overnight. And also that ability to really connect, I think, it takes it to a different level with the video. So I think that's terrific. So like you said earlier, you referenced our audience. Most of them are already established content creators with websites and social media accounts. So what advice do you have on taking that existing brand and making it work for YouTube?
Yeah, so I feel like we at least when I'm approaching, like you can say, topic research, trying to figure out what to put in the next blog post or what to put in the next video, or let's just talk about like the first couple of videos if you have an existing audience. So with YouTube, it's a little different because you don't necessarily have to target something that people specifically search for, like on Google, for example. So as you say, my blog is the 95% of the traffic I have on my sites. It's from organic Google traffic. I don't do a whole lot of social. So I'm very, very reliant on people actually searching for it. So in that matter, I would say YouTube is much more like, you can say, Facebook or a social audience, where you present something that they think is interesting and you can actually get it in front of their eyeballs without them specifically asking for it. So to me, that's a very different approach from looking at what people are looking for on Google to see what they could be interested in, you can say, on YouTube.
So in some ways that sounds incredibly appealing, that there is an immediate opportunity to get in front of eyeballs. However, though, it sounds like it could be really challenging in terms of trying to find out or predict what it is that somebody is going to want to see in front of their eyes. So do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, so I always start out with the thumbnail, and it's something I didn't do early on. Then we will create the whole video, and then we'll try to come up with a clever thumbnail, this little picture you'll click on to get to the video. And with YouTube, I just turned that on its head. So it's kind of like starting with the title, which also makes a lot of sense with a blog post. Start with the title, so you know what people are going to click on to read that. But I think that's maybe even more important than YouTube, that you really, really need to have an overall idea for that little thumbnail together with that short little tagline, that little title underneath. So yeah, so something that would catch people's attention. And sometimes I feel like on YouTube you can be a little bit more kind of clickbaity, which I wouldn't probably never do on a blog post, at least not for Google. But on YouTube you can tease people a lot more. Yeah, as long as you deliver on that promise in the thumbnail, of course. We don't want to trick people and fool them, but we want to intrigue them. And that's something that can, so if you can nail that click rate and get people interested and then actually also deliver what they're looking for, it could be with a twist sometimes. But you can be a little bit more clickbaity, I would say, on YouTube. It's actually almost expected from the viewers.
I love the term that you used, intrigue them and make them want to click more. So do you have any, you said you could be a little clickbaity, you can be at, so tell me more what you mean by twist. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so what could be a good example? Could be to blur something out in the thumbnail, for example, and then they don't know exactly what you're talking about, so they have to see what is this thing that created this graph or whatever. So I think some of my better thumbnails many times will include the before and after, or there's this crazy graph, all of a sudden it just goes over the cliff and down and then up again, or something that's a little sensational. Stuff like that. And if you have the good story to back it up, it makes a lot of sense. For example, I have a small site that got hit by a Google update, and then after 3-4 weeks it bounced back, which is kind of unusual because normally you have to wait till the next court date. And that's something that will definitely work on YouTube, because you see this graph going up and then it just goes down, over and up again, and like, what the heck is going on? And that's something that people would definitely want to see, like, how did he manage to get out of that, or to get that back in gear, or something like. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it's definitely something I think that would resonate with any audience of content creators when you're talking about getting hit with core updates and then bouncing back so quickly. That's great. And the graph being a fun tease to get people to want to know more.
Yeah, and one thing I also want to say for these little thumbnails, it's really important to keep them very, very simple. So you don't want to have it too busy in the design. So very, very simple ideas often work really well. Something like pointing to two things, and then you have number one and number two, something like that. Just very, very simple graphics with not too many colors and stuff. So yeah.
Do you make your own graphics, Morten?
Yeah, for the most part. I do now. For a while I didn't, and then I created an idea, sort of. I just did like a mock-up, and then I had somebody on Fiverr actually do it for like just $10, just do it like professionally. So it looked really well. But these days I just have a few templates that I use over and over, and then I change some graphical elements. Like I just changed the text. I use Canva for it, so it's pretty easy to reuse, and then just have like 10, 15 different baseline graphics that you just alter, and then you switch out your face or put on some extra graphics and stuff.
Would you say, so it sounds like through quite a bit of trial and error in a number of years, you've arrived at your method for thumbnails, what works for you. Would you say that you deviate from that a lot, or do you know, like, this is pretty much what works for me, and I just swap in the content for each other? Yeah,
I think so. I don't have all my thumbnails look like 95% the same. I see some YouTubers do that, so they're very, very similar. I try to not do that, because I actually had quite a lot of comments, people telling me that they thought they already watched the YouTube video, the latest video, because it looks so much like the last one. So they wanted me actually to shake things up a little bit. So what I did was I started to create 4 or 5 different backgrounds that are pretty much alike. I just changed the color. So I have this background with these lines going out from the middle, and there's typically my face somewhere there. And I have one in red, green, yellow. And so normally, sometimes I'll use red if it's about an alert or Google shaking things up, or
emergency.
Yeah, something like that. And maybe blue if it's just more like a feel-good thing, or so this is just to have some different things to play around with, while still keeping sort of this commonality across the thing, so they would quickly recognize me. Yeah.
And that's great feedback, that it's very easy to, just looking at that thumbnail, not know if you've actually watched the video or not. So that's terrific.
Yeah, because people do something like episode 11, episode 12, and then I'll just have the same base graphics. And I think that's a bad idea, because you need to get people's attention, which you might not have if they don't see something new.
And it might be super exciting to you that it's episode 57, but that means nothing to the people who you're wanting to bring in. So that's great. Okay, so other than the thumbnail, is there anything else that you need to focus on when you're wanting to start growing on YouTube, or just get started on YouTube, other than just uploading videos? Are there specific things that you would prioritize immediately? You said thumbnail, but I've heard a lot about YouTube SEO. What about a bio, or your welcome video, or what do you think? Yeah,
so for the new channel, I started out targeting some stuff that had very, very few videos about it. So I tried to find something. So within the blogging space, that was pretty hard, but I managed to find some stuff. But it could also be taking something that's pretty popular and then just turning it on its head, like coming in from the negative side of things. Why I wouldn't do X instead of why I would do X, if it lines up with what you're going to talk about, of course. But something like that. So it could be looking at something that nobody wrote about, or the complete other route. Look at something that gets a lot of attention right now, and then just coming from a totally different angle. So people just have to click it, like everybody loves this new camera. And then you're going to do something like 5 things that I hate about this camera, or that could be better, that should have been different. You know, this little screen, it doesn't flip all the way up, or it's turned on its head if you tilt the camera, something like that. Just try to find something that's not working perfectly. And so that's again to intrigue people. And there's traffic because you saw these videos, they have like maybe 1 million views, but there's no way you could rank for a review of this new Canon or whatever. But maybe you could do something interesting about this camera that's not a review, but something else. So that
so looking
could be an
for
idea.
topics. Yeah, looking for topics that are, people are looking at, but looking at ways to do a slightly different spin on them.
Yeah, definitely coming from another angle, and not just doing the next video after what they all did, like doing review number 7. If your small channel is just not going to roll, at least for a new channel. So so that's one way. Or you could, if you can manage to find something that you think people would be interested in, could also try and trigger this Google autocomplete. It also works on YouTube. You type something, it will auto suggest, are you looking for this or that? And if you find something there that nobody did a video about, that's normally a winner. So you just don't know how much traffic you're gonna get, because you can't look at the other videos on around the same topic. But for a new channel, that's normally a very good idea, to target something that's underserved.
To use that autocomplete feature in the same way that we do, like the people also ask with Google.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think many of us are looking for blog post opportunities there, and you can definitely do the same thing on YouTube.
And do you find that they line up in terms of people also ask on Google versus people also ask on YouTube, or are they really different?
Well, I mostly used that technique in the beginning, also because I would say. So now I'm actively working on my YouTube channel about blogging, and 99% of everything has been filmed already. So there's not much for me to dig up. But let's say I wanted to do a channel about something that wasn't too crowded and wasn't too competitive, then there's definitely a lot of opportunities there. But for me personally, now that I have some subscribers, and I would say as soon as you have like 500 maybe or 1,000 subscribers, when you manage to get some traction, I would probably start shifting then to targeting something that people are actually looking for. So it's pretty awesome with YouTube, because you can just type it in, hit enter, and see how many views are they getting. You can see what's the scope, what's the interest for this type of topic, and then, like I said, maybe choose another angle and try and stay off the beaten path, at least in the beginning.
Okay, so that you're finding topics that are related to your niche, that are related to what you want to talk about. You've done some research, you've got some topics. How are you making a video that is of a quality that people want to watch? Like, for instance, tell us how do you shoot a good YouTube video? How long does it take?
Yeah, so that's a super good question. I guess so since we did some YouTube already, we had some gear lying around. So I started out with some, I would say, semi-professional, like a Canon camera, maybe for like a $500 type camera. That worked really well. I actually started filming some of my videos now just with my iPhone. It's just an iPhone 10. It's nothing fancy. It's not even the 13 or something. So a little backstory why both. So I think it totally depends on your crowd and what they are expecting, what they're normally looking at. So if you are into, let's say, interior design, and people are looking at beautiful images on other YouTube videos, and you know what you're up against, or you're competing with Pinterest and just beautiful pictures, then you might need to really turn up the quality and get a good, decent lighting, and maybe also work on the echo in your room and that kind of stuff. But I feel for my audience, so they are on my channel to learn about blogging, and they just want to get the latest on something. They just want the teaching. They actually asked me, and I also had somebody call a few from my audience and interview them quite extensively about, I mean, I needed to get some feedback, some really honest feedback. And they told me that they didn't really care about B-roll. They didn't care about my little sketches and me jumping around whenever I said something about happy, or me looking really sad. I did all this B-roll that took a long time for each and every video. I would film myself, go out in the car and drive off if I talked about driving off. It just took a lot of time, maybe 5 or 10 extra hours. And turned out for my audience, they were just there to get educated. They were busy people. They just wanted to get to know, okay, what's up with this Google update or whatever. So it very, very much depends on your audience, because for our other channel, Go Downsize, where we do home tours and stuff, it's all about looking at beautiful furniture, see how they fold nicely up on the wall. They want to get all the angles. And me just sitting and talking about that furniture, obviously that would never work. But also if the image quality wasn't good. So I would say for more educational type talking head video like we're doing here, my audience told me they just want it quick and dirty. Just give it to us quickly. Just skip all the B-roll and all the funny stuff and give it to us. And so I guess I also have a pretty mature audience. I guess if you're targeting very young people, they're probably used to much, much quicker pace, fast edits and stuff. But that's not what I'm getting from my audience. So I thought I needed that. I thought I needed that classic YouTube style, very fast edited B-roll every 5 to 10 seconds and stuff. And that was just not what my audience wanted. So I guess what I'm saying is you really need to figure out what your audience is. And the best thing is, if you are your audience, so to speak, if you're talking to somebody who's similar to yourself, that normally works best. If you choose a style that you're comfortable with, you're probably going to attract people like yourself. They're just much, much easier to communicate to than somebody who's like 20 years younger than yourself, or
That's another great tip. It makes it easier to give your audience what they want if you have some way of knowing your audience, especially if they're just like you.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic. So what do you use to edit? And you said sometimes you just shoot on your phone, sometimes you go all the way and do all the lighting and the cameras and everything, but what do you use to edit, and how long does it take you per video?
Yeah, so I use the Mac. So I use iMovie. It's super, super simple. I tried to look into some other types of software. To me, it was just, I like to keep things super, super simple. And it's just easy to boot up and it's very quickly. And I didn't want to have too many layers of videos anyway. So I'm using iMovie, and I would say for my quicker videos, something that I put out on a weekly basis, like the videos that I normally do on my channel, they require very little editing. Maybe just an hour to 1 to 3 hours of editing. So I think that's to me that's pretty quickly. But sometimes if I wanted to do a video like how to write the perfect blog post, that's definitely going to be competitive. So that's a video I did last year, and then it would be way longer. It was like a 25-minute tutorial with a lot of screenshots, a lot of stuff, a lot of cuts and different angles and stuff, because I just wanted it to be the best it could absolutely be. So that took me maybe closer to like 15 hours of editing. But normally that's not what I don't have time for that on a weekly basis. On a weekly basis, my normal videos, like 8 out of 10 videos, would be like a couple of hours in the editing process.
That's not bad at all. And I guess another great question would be, how long are these videos typically that you find success, and how often are you having to put out new content?
Yeah, so I like to post weekly. I did that for I think for the first full year, I posted 2 videos per week, just sort of to have more lines in the water. And I actually forced myself to do like 30 videos in 30 days. That didn't quite happen. But I think I put up like 25 videos really quickly within sort of almost a month. So I took the weekends off, and they were horrible. If you look at the first video on my channel, I'm literally reading from a teleprompter, and it's very, very easy to tell. I'm just looking slightly away from the lens, and it's just really not that engaging or anything. But after a while, obviously, I got a little more detached from the camera, and it's starting to ease up a lot more.
So about how long are your videos?
Oh yeah, that's what you asked. Sorry.
So that's okay. Normally, it was a great story.
Normally 7 to 10 minutes, I would say. Yeah, I try to aim for 10 minutes, but many times when I edit, I just remove more in the last round of editing. So they normally end out shorter than that, maybe 8-9 minutes. And I haven't found a super strong correlation between the length and the attention it'll get, or how far it'll get out to new viewers. So I've seen videos just like a handful of minutes, just like 3, 4, even just 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, like be some of the best videos. And then you have like a super great video that's like 30 minutes long and that does great as well. So I think it very much depends on the topic. So I think the worst thing you can do is to just add length to it or add fluff. It's kind of like with the blog post, right? Nobody wants to just read words just to get the word count up. So it's the same thing. I would say if you can cut more out of it, you should probably do it. So try to not repeat yourself, and especially within the first couple of minutes, because there you need to offer a lot of value. If people stick around after 6, 7, 8 minutes, then you can ease up a little bit on the editing, and they'll probably stay with you even if you come back to a point another time. But for the first couple of minutes, so yeah, so I would say it depends on the topic, but normally I would say my videos are between 7 to 10 minutes.
Okay, so you dropped a lot of great things in there, but the one I really want to come back to is the first 2 minutes. And it sounds like that's a really important place to focus. You focus your editing more heavily there. Why is the first 2 minutes so important?
Yeah, so because you really want to hook the viewer early on and show them that you have some good stuff that they need to watch this video. So you don't want to just talk about what's coming, and don't just talk about what you're going to talk about. Start talking about the actual thing right on. So a lot of, this was huge like a couple of years ago. People would always say something like, welcome to my channel. They had this blah, 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 blah for a long time. And then we'll come back to talk about what they're going to talk about. And then maybe there's this quick going over some pointers, and then all of a sudden you talk like for a full minute and you didn't give them anything yet. You just talking about it. And so I think I like to just start right on, like the first sentence or so should be very much related to what they saw on that thumbnail or in that title that they clicked, so they know they're actually getting value from, at least from the first minute, maybe not from the first second. It's okay to say hi.
Yes, a hi is good. A hi is always helpful, but getting into the meat as opposed to trying to set the stage and get people to follow and do all those sorts of things, subscribe. Okay, what makes some up? Because sometimes you said a 30-minute one can work, a 3-minute one can work in terms of length, but what do you think are the elements or a couple of elements to a really successful video? Why do some hit and some miss?
Yeah, I think it's really, really hard to sort of distill it down to a form or into a table of content that you can reuse over and over. I think with YouTube, it's really just about it's really much about staying on topic very much, because it's so easy you always have all these other nice thumbnails in the right side and right around, and it's easy for people to get distracted or just click on something similar. So I think have a good steady pace and flow of the video. I think is the most important, that you don't talk too much about the same stuff. And again, especially in the beginning, you can soften up this all throughout the video, and if they watch all the way to the end, you can definitely loosen more up. But I think it's not a lot. I know I think it's really hard to say what makes a good outline or how to structure a video, because I feel like it's so different. Sometimes I'll take a walk around the garden and talk about stuff in the YouTube video, and then that works well. And then I'm doing something completely different, just sitting on a couch and talking. So I think mixing things up a little bit maybe is a good thing. So people don't always get what they think they get. Maybe sometimes surprise them a little bit. Show them a little bit of your private life, even though you're not like a typical influencer or vlogging or something per se. So for me, for example, I'm talking about blogging. People are not that interested in what coffee I drink, right? But me maybe walking into the kitchen and just taking a little sip of coffee and saying, oh, I just got this machine. It could just be like a sentence, not like a minute, but something like that. I feel like people appreciate that, just seeing a little bit more of me. Since they're actually following my channel, there's the reason why they come to me for blogging advice on my channel and not somebody else. So they but that's very much a fine line about how much you want to share and how much they could be interested in.
I think, yeah, the keeping in mind that there's a reason they came to you and there's a reason they want to stay with you. And I love that, giving a little bit of a behind the scenes or a little more insight into who you are as a person. That's terrific. Okay, so do you typically, so you have your Passive Income Geek YouTube channel and that's where you started. And then you have a website for it as well. How do you go back and forth between, do you ever start by creating a blog post on as your start and then make it a YouTube video, or do you always do a YouTube video and then turn it into a blog post, or how does that work for you in terms of workflow?
Yeah, so actually for the Passive Income Geek, I actually do very, very little blog posts. I just have like 2 blog posts on it. I only do YouTube for that one, but for Go Downsize, for the other one, there we have done it a couple of times. So maybe we'll do like a blog post first about 13 things that are wrong with Airstream trailers or something like campers, and then we'll do a video about it and just take the best tip, and just, so that's something that's very, very translatable, like a list post or something like that. It's easy to shoot like a video and just rank in both spots on YouTube, or maybe just take it and embed it into the blog post, and maybe the blog post will actually rank with that video. So there's a couple of tricks there, but something like that is easy to turn into a video, and will often do really, really well, like 9 ways or 9 reasons why, or 8 tips to, or so these tips kind of things. And I think I'm mentioning these because they often work really well as blog posts as well. So it's not something you need to come at from a completely different angle. It's very, very easy to translate between the blog and YouTube.
That's great. And people they love them on blog posts with the 9 tips, and they love them on, everybody loves a countdown. That's always, I don't know if Dave Letterman started it, but they sure do love it. Okay. We have a great question from Sarah in the audience. She says, question, can a channel work without you being in all the videos the way you are, Morten? Do you see examples of that working?
Oh, so I mean like faceless videos, like without being in the video?
Yeah, maybe just a voiceover, pictures of food. What do you think?
Yeah, I see some really good. I actually came across a video channel. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a guy talking about sort of, you can say, biking life or cycling life, where you would ditch the car, and how can you live without a car in the city. So it's a huge channel. It's wildly successful. It's this Dutch guy talking about how to live without a car, and I haven't seen his face yet, so that's a little weird. But I mean, there's his voice all the time. He's just talking over it, and he has this amazing B-roll. I think he's shooting it all like in Amsterdam and stuff. So it's really beautiful. And he's showing what he's talking about. He's just not in the camera. It's more like he's walking around. So that can definitely work. But I think for a teaching video, if you have more like a slideshow, I don't think that works super well on video, because that's more like just a series of pictures. It would probably work better to just slice it up and put it in a blog post. I think so of course you could do this because you don't want to be on video. Maybe you don't want to have your face up there. So there's ways around this, but I feel like that's what video can really, really do, and what makes it stand out is this connection. Like, I mean, I'm talking to you, right? It's not just a phone call. You're actually there. I can see you. I can see your facial expressions. And I think that's what, for the main part, is what makes it work. You need to be really, really good at putting together video if you want to remove yourself and do faceless videos, because this guy was really good at that.
Doing kind of a from his perspective video as opposed to showing him in the video. But what you just brought up is actually exactly what I wanted to talk about next, which is, how do you grow an audience? Because you've got the channel, you've got your brand, you're making videos, but how do you turn one-time viewers into a community like you have? How do you make that connection and keep them returning back?
Yeah, so I think this is something we learned on that first channel, this channel about downsizing. So we tried to do a couple of different things on that channel, and so we did grow that channel to more than 100,000 subscribers, but we don't have like anything like that watching like the majority of our videos. So first, you shouldn't expect all your subscribers to watch all your videos. I mean, I have 20,000 subscribers now on my blogging YouTube channel, and I think there's no way I could post a video that every single one would watch. But But if you get like just a few hundred to watch it and you have like 10,000 subscribers, that's a pretty bad sign. And the problem there, so you can say you're growing in numbers, but you're not really growing your audience like you asked. You're not really captivating them and making them watch videos. So I think the key component there is to have, we can say, to really focus your channel about something specific. So for example, my channel is about blogging. So if you started a blog and specifically content sites, so I'm not talking about how to buy an AIDS domain or something like that. I'm not talking about everything within blogging. I'm just talking about the stuff that I do. And then eventually I will attract the people that do things the way that I do it, that like the way that I do it. And so it is definitely okay to have like a very specific, you can say, so this comes down to style. They like how you present things, but also to the content itself. So I think that's a good way to build an audience, is to be consistent in what you're talking about. Because, so for example, on our bigger channel, we mostly do home tours. We mostly showed people how could people live in a tiny space. But if we all of a sudden did like a budget video, like how could you set a budget for something where you wanted to downsize your life and just stuff, and how much money are we spending on that? There was just a very different audience. They might not be that interested in it, because the people we were reaching for the most part were people looking for space-saving hacks and crazy furniture and things popping out of the walls and getting quickly hit away and transforming furniture. So whenever we would do a video about that, it would just do much better, because that was the audience we had there. So you need to be very mindful, I would say, from the very beginning, that you don't go like east, west, and center just to try things out. Try to early on define who you're going to reach, what you're going to talk about, and then sort of stay within that scope. I think that's super important in YouTube in order to grow an audience.
That is terrific advice, and it's really helpful for our existing audience, for our publishers who already know a lot about what their niches are and what they're already focusing on with their existing content, so they can slide over.
Yeah, just a quick example, because on our blog we talk about boating. We also, one of our sites, so the channel that's connected to that bigger channel, it's called Go Downsize. We talk about boating, we talk about RVing, we talk about tiny houses, we talk about furniture, and we can totally do that on a blog, because people will come to that blog post. It's great. They can click around on that section of this website. But let's say I wanted to do a YouTube channel about boating and RVing and tiny houses and small furniture. That might not really fly. I would today, knowing what I know now, I would definitely slice that up into 3 different channels. Maybe just start with one of them and just have a channel about boating. I would never put something on there about tiny houses unless there's something you can specifically use on a boat. Let's say some crazy furniture that you could totally put into your boat. So it's just very much more important on YouTube to be mindful that you have an audience they're interested in this. So don't do a video about this and that over here.
You need to be specific and give the audience what they're looking for. Okay, as always, we're running low on time, but I want to wind down with action items for all our viewers who are ready to start their YouTube channel or already have one and are hungry for growth. What are a couple of things that they could do today or this week or this month that will get them moving in the right direction? I'll get right back to you for those. But first, I wanted to let everybody know on the next Summer of Live, believe it or not, we will be in our last episode in July. Our next episode is Tuesday, July 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. My guest will be Ricky Kessler of Income School, and we're going to talk about scaling, how to scale your business, whether that's hiring or optimizations, automations, things like that, different ways to sustainably scale your business without losing that core of what's made you successful in the first place. So please come join me and Ricky. We would love to have you. And Morten, it has been such an absolute delight to have you. Thank you for making time for us. What can we send? What to-do list can we give our viewers?
Yeah, I think some of the first low-hanging fruit, something that's easy to do if you have no channel today, is maybe just find some of these list posts on your blog and just see if it's something that could fly on YouTube. Maybe search for it first on YouTube and see that nobody did these. But I mean, since you already have the outline, you have the tips, you already wrote the blog post, those are some of the easy ones to shoot because you have the outline right there. Yeah, so that's probably what I would start out with, and just see and maybe also some of the articles that get a lot of attraction on your site, because since a lot of people are searching for it on Google, they might also be interested for it on YouTube. And you already have some numbers if you're taking some of the most popular content on your blog, and then see if you can sort of find something that's not too competitive there and try it out and start there on YouTube.
That is great. So we're going to look at our top posts on our website and look at some of our list posts on our website and see how we can turn those into YouTube videos, just to give it a shot, just to try. And remember all of Morton's great advice about thumbnails and everything he says. It's all super helpful. You can watch this anytime. There's always the replay. We're also going to drop a resources guide into the comments so that you can visit his YouTube channel and find him all the other places. Morten, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. A pleasure.